Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Musician Guidance Podcast. My name is Mack, and I'm joined alongside the UK's #1 female Afrobeats host. She is also an award-nominated entertainment journalist, has her own radio show, and is the lead music publicist at Mae Management Consultancy Group, which works with top African artists in the industry. Without further ado, Gracey Mae, how are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me, Mack. I'm really excited to be on your platform.
No worries, a pleasure.
And a great intro, by the way. But yeah, that was that.
Well, it's easy when you have those accomplishments. It makes my job a lot more easier. And I do want to thank you as well for taking the time. I want to thank you as well for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join me and provide some guidance, to our community. Before we dive into it, though, I'd just like to give yourself an opportunity to share a little bit more about yourself, your story, and kind of how that led to becoming a music publicist.
So my journey is very convoluted, as with most people in the entertainment industry. I am a law graduate, so I'm a lawyer. I pivoted into project management. And while I was doing project management, I started a YouTube channel about hair. I got discovered by a local radio station who said that I had the personality for radio. I came in and done the demo. And that was 7 years ago last month. And since then, it's been a crazy whirlwind, which has enabled me to not just become a radio host, but entertainment journalist in general. So I write, I do podcasts similar to this, as well as the radio show. I've presented a few TV shows as well, a few game shows. And the transition into PR was, I had lots of African artists that were coming to my platform saying, how do I break the UK? How do I break London? How do I get an international sound? Right. And then equally, I had local artists in the UK saying, oh my gosh, you're so in touch with Nigeria, you're so in touch with Africa. How do I let my sounds transcend back home? And so given that I had the journalistic platform on radio and TV, it just made sense because I had the network with different media houses and I had the connections with different platforms. And it was really organic. I started with 1 or 2 artists and, a couple of years later, I've worked with all of the best people in the game. So a convoluted but a very exciting journey, and it's just the beginning.
Exactly, that's awesome. I love that. And what are the responsibilities of a music publicist?
So a publicist is responsible for putting your brands in the media. Media can be anything from TV to radio to publications. I personally operate on the 4 Ps method, which is press, publications, promo, and playlisting. By giving that 360 approach, you really are able to increase your visibility and increase your brand awareness, which is people knowing about you. Right. And you're also able to increase your brand loyalty, which is retention, basically.
Definitely. And
so I know you make good music, but do I stick around? And that's part of my job.
Exactly. And would you say that crafting an artist's image or brand is crucial to help them stand out in a positive way? And if so, how do you go about creating that image?
100%. So everyone says that the music industry is very saturated.
Right.
But I beg to differ. I feel like you can have a niche, whether it's in terms of your flow, your style, your image, whether you're personable, whether you're aloof, whether you're formal. So branding is like the bedrock of publicity. It also helps me decide what publications to reach out. So are you suitable for MTV? Or are you suitable for a more niche platform like Colors? Are you suitable for, a festival like Coachella? Or is it going to be something more like the, Soul Train Awards? Your brand is the foundation for publicity because it allows you, first of all, to retain a similar market. So going to platforms that already have a following similar to your target audience, but also It allows me to know where to reach out to kind of broaden your market. So maybe Essence or Glamour, where you don't currently have an audience, and we can try and build an audience in those spaces.
And so I'm just kind of curious, I guess, how do you determine which outlet or trend that would be the best for that artist and their brand?
Yeah, so without getting too technical, when you look at publicity and marketing, there's a thing called the 8-step adoption ladder. So at the very first step, that is when an audience or a target market that you're trying to reach have no idea about you. They don't know you exist. They don't know your name. And then the 8th step is when they're like a super fan. They know your birthday. They have your posters on their wall. And so one of the first things I do is to identify at what stage is the target audience in for your journey. And maybe they know your name, but they don't know a song, or maybe they know your song, but they don't know your name. And then we craft a publicity campaign specific to that. Unfortunately, there isn't like a broad stroke, one size fits all, especially when you're looking at breaking new territories or even retaining territories. In Canada, You have provinces in the US, you have states. You know, there are some artists that never break out of their state, but that's because they're very intentional about keeping it to local marketing. Whereas you have people that go global because they're able to pivot their sound, pivot their brands, and pivot their publicity to kind of attract a brand new audience.
Very interesting. And I have some questions.
Yeah, there's a bit of science behind it.
No, definitely. And I think as you said, it's not one size fits all. It's a methodical process for each artist. Definitely. I have some questions here too submitted by our community.
Okay.
And so I'll just kind of dive into them here. So the first one is from Sasha. And she asked, how does music by an unknown artist become popularized? And you definitely touched on it there, but if you wouldn't mind diving into it a little more even.
So making your music popular is a combination of marketing, which is I put some money in and I've got some targets and I get some results out, as well as publicity, which is more of a softer approach where you're trying to build relationships with platforms. So if I can quickly touch on marketing, you might do things like a digital campaign where you might do ads on Instagram, you might do ads on Facebook, you might do ads on Snapchat, and you have to be very deliberate as to what you want the listener, the viewer to do. So if it's clicking a banner to stream your video, if it's clicking a banner to stream your music, your campaign has to be very specific. And there's one thing that we do in marketing called A/B testing, where you might have the same content, so the same video, the same image, and you change the caption. You run that ad for a week or two, and you see which one does best. And then that's the one that you continue for the rest of your campaign. That's called A/B testing. So marketing is a whole bag that I'm sure you'll unpack in a different session, but with PR specifically, basics is having an EPK. So that's an electronic press kit. This tells us everything about you, your achievements, no matter how big or small they would be. It will have headshots about you, of you. It will have a description of your music, a description of your background, and anything in between really. An electronic press kit is basically a pitch deck to kind of get people excited and enticed into what you do. And that is what you would send out to different publications, different platforms to engage with them. You would then also attach with that a press release. So a press kit is specific to the artist, a press release is specific to the product. And the press release basically details, if it's a song, it will detail the genre of music it is, possibly the production. It might give some sonic references to maybe it has a lot of guitar, maybe it's mid-tempo, maybe it's EDM, and give a little snippet about the artist. And then it might also give a teaser as to what to expect next. And so as a standard, you would send out a press kit and a press release to different platforms, pitching your music. There are a lot of places that have links where you're able to submit music as well. And yeah, it will be a combination of the two. I would always, obviously, as a publicist, recommend hiring someone that already has those connections so that you're not just, cold emailing a bunch of people. Right. So that is the last point as well. Make sure you have a strong contact list and continue to work on it daily if you can, weekly if you can't. But it's good to have your own mini database of radio hosts, of podcasters, of influencers, and pitch your music. You have to be the biggest promoter of your music. If you're not passionate about it, nobody else will be. Very well said. And as you touched on EPKs there, I want to kind of dive into that too, because I know we get sent EPKs all the time, and it's just, how do I put this nicely? It's maybe I don't have to. It's not appealing. And you'll have pictures that are like 480p. You can barely see what they're doing in it. And what would be your advice to, for artists that are putting together their EPK? Would you have someone do it for them, or are there just like certain things that I know you touched on, like having pictures and contact info? Are there other certain must-haves on the EPK? Yes. So I'll start with saying there are so many free apps that you can use, like Canva, that already have templates. Like if you are a creative, but you're a music creative and not maybe a graphic design creative, that's okay. Like lead with your strengths. Your pitch deck is the first impression of you. And you know that saying, you never get a second chance at a first impression. Right. If you send an EPK that has been made on Paint from, I don't know, Microsoft 2006, yeah, just like you, I get a lot of those and I close them immediately. Or if you decide to send your bio in the body of an email, it's not visually appealing. I'm probably not going to continue reading. So use any of the free or paid platforms to create a nice PDF. So that would be step one. Make sure it's a PDF document. And different people have preferences as to whether you attach it to an email or you send a link. In my opinion, both work. I've seen quite a few snazzy ones as well made on Adobe Spark. But if you aren't that technically inclined, Canva is a really good tool that everyone can use. So yes, number one is PDF. Number two, tell us a bit about you. Why did you get into music? When did you start? What inspired you? You're telling a story and you want whoever's reading it to buy into it. People buy into a brand before they buy into the product. And that is the same for whether it's a musician, whether it's an iPhone, or anything in between. So get us to love you, get us to love your brand. And that is in the bio. Add a few pictures. If you're performing, a good headshot, preferably not a selfie, but if it is, let it be good lighting, let it be as HD as possible. And yeah, let it be as professional as possible. Like I said before, if you've got any achievements or any streaming numbers that can help, place those. If you've got any follow accounts as well, whether they're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Spotify, add all of that, because we want to get a well-rounded picture of who you are as an artist. And then last but not least, of course, add the contact details. Oh, I didn't say, tag your music, tag the music videos if you've got any, even if they're just clips to like covers on SoundCloud or Instagram, include everything. And yes, please include your contact details. If I've loved everything about you and I want to make a press inquiry, whether it's for an interview, for a feature, for a review, having clear details is great. And then mini tip, please don't let it be like Ms.Licious91 at hotmail.com.
Yes.
Let it be
Good tip.
a professional email, because I've seen a lot of them. And
Right.
Those are the EPKs that stand up for the wrong reason. Even if you don't have enough money to get a whole website up and running, if you don't have enough money to get a personalized email domain, use a good Gmail or an Outlook and just make sure that it's professionally titled. That's all I'm asking for.
Definitely. I know when we get emails like that, it's an immediate red flag, and we don't even want to open them when we see those unique domains, as I'll call them.
Yeah.
And is there a
Yeah.
right? Is there a standard length that an EPK should be?
So it really does depend on what stage of your journey you're in. If you haven't got a bunch of awards or a bunch of achievements or a bunch of tours or endorsement deals or any of that stuff to talk about, you don't want to fill pages with lots of fluff. Right. So a bio technically should be a page or two. Links to your headshot or headshots themselves could be a page, half a page. Really, it does depend on the stage of your journey. But for the average entry-level artist, I would say you should aim for a nice 4 to 5 page EPK with contact details at the back and a nice cover image at the front, and in between maybe 1 page for the bio, 1 page for streams and followers, and 1 page for anything else that you think would be enticing to your reader.
Awesome. That's going to help our community members so much. I just know, so I really appreciate the detail in that. So this next question, again from our one of our community members, his name is Yuri, and he's asking, how can I find my unique artist image? And we can look at that more broadly. So in general, what advice would you give to artists to find their uniqueness and portray it?
Okay, great question, Yuri. And unique selling point or unique artist imagery is something that some artists take years to define and craft. So my first thing would be start with what you have, right? Everyone, especially artists, are perfectionists. They really go through churning through every single detail to the point that it stifles them from actually progressing. So one of the things that I often advise some of the artists that I look after is you can have your personal persona and then you can have your artist persona. It's okay for them to be the same, but it's actually very okay for them to be quite different. Sometimes when they are different, if, I don't know, you get some bad press or bad publicity, when people are attacking that persona, you don't take it as personally because they're attacking the brand and the image you built as opposed to attacking you. So some people do that as a bit of, I don't know, self-preservation. I would say in terms of finding your unique selling point or unique artist imagery, first thing is, what do you sound like? When people say your name, what do you want them to think? If your brand was a Disney character, are we saying that they're funny? Are they comical? Are they poetic? Is their flow fast? Are they really great at harmonies? Do they do, higher octave, lower octave? You need to be thinking of those descriptive words, and they should be singular words. Relatable, conservative, these are all super descriptive adjectives that you should be thinking about when you're saying, okay, what is my unique selling point? How do I want to be portrayed? And you can start off with 50. Maybe you start with a whole paragraph of this is who I am, this is what I do, this is the sound I create. And then you should be able to whittle it down to 5 keywords. Those 5 keywords should be the basis of your unique selling point. And whether you're doing dancehall, whether you're doing EDM, jungle, metal, or anything in between, by having a brand that pivots on those 5 words, you should be able to fully master what you should look like, what you should sound like, what your speech and your brand's tone of voice should be like. And yeah, I've said a lot, but hopefully all of that makes sense.
Definitely. And then in every piece of content you create too, to stay true to that. Is that right? To stay true 100%. To those. Yeah.
Consistency over perfection.
That's good. Slap that on a t-shirt, hey?
We're selling it in a store near you.
Exactly. Now I got another question here, and this is the big question. I've been asked it more times than I can remember, including by Ella, Morgan, and Stephen or Stefan. And it is, when should artists consider getting a publicist?
Ooh, $1 million question.
Right.
Now, for labels that have tons of money, or for an independent artist that has a sponsor, getting a publicist is super important because you want to get your face in the media, but it does cost a pretty penny. So if I had to say what team members you should get in order of priority, number one would be a manager. Number two would be a booking agent, because there is also offline marketing, if you want to call it that. You going to perform at shows also sells your brand and sells your sound, and offline and like in-person interaction is like number two. After that, I would say get a marketer, whether that is a social media manager, whether that's someone that's going to help you with your SEO, so that's your search engine optimization, whether that's someone's going to help you create content and put it as banners on website. Get a marketer in some kind of form. It could even be print, even though I'm not a big advocate of print marketing. It could be someone helping you print flyers and distributing them at, I don't know, the local fair. And then number four would be your lawyer. And then number five would be the publicist. And number 6, 7, 8 could include things like having a sound engineer, having a PA, having an A&R. So that's someone that helps you find the right producers and the right songwriters. But yeah, publicists wouldn't be first, but definitely shouldn't be last.
Right. And I think that's great. And especially listing them there, because artists definitely don't know when they need a manager over a booking agent or when they need a publicist, etc. So I really like that. And even diving into it a little more. So let's say they have the lawyer, they have the manager, they have the booking agent. In terms of getting the publicist, would it be wise to do when they're releasing new music, or just at any time?
Publicity is all year round, whereas marketing is usually fixed on a specific campaign or a specific release or a specific product. It could be a merchandise, it could be a single, it could be anything in between. So publicity should be all year round. It's supposed to be a softer approach. It's about promoting your face and your likeness in the media, and that doesn't have to revolve around the release. Ideally, the people that have great publicity are the people that we don't have to think about. They're consistently in the media. It's not, oh, they popped up because they've got an album coming out, or they popped up because they've got a song coming out. Because what you're doing is you're going from 0 to 100. You're having to try and warm cold leads. Whereas if you keep your leads warm throughout the year, when you do have a release, it's easier to notify them and let them know. And yeah, publicity should be all year round. Marketing should be around specific releases.
Right. So it's all about kind of building that momentum and keeping that momentum going all year round.
Yeah. Consistency over perfection.
Consistency is key. And then looking at the flip side of that, those questions focused on the artist side. But what do you look for in potential clients?
Oh my gosh, $1 million question. When it comes to artists, I love for people to be very open-minded. I think whenever you have any team members, it's good that you trust their ability and you trust their skill, and that you're open to listening. If you could do it all by yourself, you would. But physically, you don't have the time capacity, you don't have the network capacity, and sometimes you don't even have the skill capacity. So it's being open to new ideas. I never come in trying to change an artist, which is why one of the first conversations I have is, what are your objectives for this campaign? What does success look like to you? Who is your target audience? And once you have that as a bedrock, you're then able to build from there. So if your target or if your objective is to create a brand awareness campaign, and your success criteria looks like, I don't know, a 10% increase in listeners in the UK, I'm able to take both of those criteria and then build something that's very specific to your needs. And again, like I said, it will revolve around the 4P approach that I have, which is press, publicity, promo, and playlisting. And you can sprinkle other things in and around that. But yeah, it's always, always, always important to work with someone who is ready to listen and ready to learn. Because I myself don't know it all. And so, yeah, and neither does the artist. So it's good that we have, a symbiotic relationship where we both know that we're benefiting from this engagement.
Awesome. I think that's the best way to do it. And obviously you have a PR agency. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
So Mae, aka Mae MCG, Mae Management Consultancy Group. So we officially launched last year, but I've been doing PR for longer than I'd like to admit, maybe 4 or 5 years. And yeah, so we are a multinational global team. So we have a rep in Lagos, Nigeria, which is West Africa. We have a rep in South Africa, Johannesburg. We have a rep in London. We're currently recruiting for a rep in East Africa and the US so that we can cover,
Exciting.
3 continents-ish.
Right.
And we specialize in music of African origin, and music in the African diaspora. And some of our biggest clients include Bella Schmurder, who's currently on, I think, 2.5 million followers.
Wow.
He has over 600 million streams in the last 2 years. But then we also work with, up and coming artists. So one of the newest people we've signed, her name is Marie. I think she's on 13,000 Instagram followers, and she's just 2 singles in. So, we look for potential. We work with people that are established. We work with people that are brand new. And we get placement in publications like BBC, CNN, MTV. We work quite closely with TikTok and Triller, Apple Music, Spotify, all the DSPs, digital streaming platforms, as well as the major social media platforms. And we focus on digital activation, project activation, music PR, and music marketing. So that is Mae Management Consultancy Group. In a nutshell, our slogan is magnify the artist, amplify the sound. And that's what we aim to do.
Awesome. And that's on a t-shirt too?
It should be, shouldn't
it? Should be.
I'm going to print some after this.
Good. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I wish you nothing but success with it. And there's one more question here that I want to ask, which is a question I basically ask everyone, just because I love the differing views and outputs. And it's just super general, but it is, what is your best advice for aspiring musicians?
Ooh, best advice. I think I've said it quite a bit. Consistency over perfection. Consistency looks like staying true to you. Consistency looks like arriving and showing up even when you don't feel like it. Consistency means arriving on time. Consistency means true to your word. Consistency means being open to change and being flexible to pivot. Consistency is just such an enormous word because it talks about maintenance. It talks about progression. It talks about not giving up. So yeah, consistency over perfection. That would be it. Well, we like to obsess over the small details. And sometimes, and most times, you find out that it doesn't really matter. Most people are happy to go to an artist that they know can consistently give them a type of feeling, consistently evoke a certain emotion, can put them in a certain mood. And they don't want that for one singular year. They'd like to have that, maybe every quarter, every other month. So yeah, definitely consistency over perfection would be my top tip.
Awesome. Consistency is key. That's the theme.
That's it.
And just before we conclude here, if there's anything I missed or something you were hoping I was going to ask and didn't, I would like to give yourself an opportunity to share anything else you'd like. Is there anything that comes to mind?
No, I think we covered it. Differences between publicity and marketing, when you should get a publicist versus when you should get a marketer, and everything else in between. But I'm always open to speaking to people one-on-one. So you can speak to me directly on Instagram and Twitter, _Gracey Mae. So that's GRACEYMAE. So many ways to spell Gracie and so many ways to spell May, but that's the way I spell mine. And then if you'd like to have more of a professional opinion, and if you'd like to work, then the Instagram is Mae, MAE.MCG. That's Management Consultancy Group.
I'll put a link on the screen. I'll have a link on the screen so they can just click it because I know, And it's been an absolute honor to have you on. And I really appreciate the honesty and detail in your answers. And I want to let you know you're always welcome to come back on. In the meantime, though, that is going to conclude this episode. Until next time, everyone, take care and keep making music.